Up to 70% of people over 50 are taking blood pressure medication they don't actually need. I'm Dr. Valerie Stone, a general practitioner with 20 years of clinical experience, and what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about that 140 over 90 reading. The truth is, most people are being treated for high blood pressure based on measurements that are completely wrong. And here's what terrifies me most. This isn't just about unnecessary pills, it's about the real damage those medications can do when your body doesn't need them. Today, you'll learn the 5 critical mistakes that turn a normal reading into a false diagnosis, and why that number on the screen might be lying to you right now. Write in the comments what scares you most about blood pressure readings and what city you're from. This helps me understand how our thinking community over 50 is living and what concerns keep you up at night. Your answers shape the content I create for you. Let me tell you about Margaret. She's 62, retired teacher from Ohio. For 3 years, Margaret took 2 different blood pressure medications every single morning. She felt dizzy, tired, her ankles swelled. Her doctor kept adjusting the doses, adding new pills, trying to get that stubborn pressure down. But here's what nobody told Margaret. Her blood pressure wasn't actually high. Not really. The problem wasn't her heart, it was how she was measuring it. Think about your blood pressure like water flowing through a garden hose. When you measure the pressure, you need perfect conditions. The hose needs to be straight. The water needs to flow steadily. Any kink, any twist, any sudden change, and your reading becomes meaningless. That's exactly what happens with blood pressure cuffs, and almost nobody does it right. The first deadly mistake is measuring right after you move. You just walked up the stairs. You rushed to your appointment. You hurried in from the car. Your heart is still pumping harder. Your vessels are still adjusting, and you sit down and immediately wrap that cuff around your arm. What happens? Your reading shoots up, sometimes by 20 or 30 points. I see this every single day in my practice. Patients arrive stressed, rushed, worried about being late. They sit down, we measure, and suddenly they're hypertensive. But are they really? Here's what the research shows. A study published in the Journal of Hypertension followed over 8,000 patients. When they measured blood pressure immediately after arrival, 43% showed elevated readings. But when those same patients rested for just 5 minutes, their numbers dropped back to completely normal ranges. 43%, nearly half. These people were being diagnosed, medicated, and treated for a condition they didn't have. Let me tell you what happened to Margaret. One day she came to see me for a routine check. I noticed something. She was breathing fast. Her face was flushed. I asked her what she'd been doing. She'd just carried 3 bags of groceries up 2 flights of stairs. Then she'd rushed to make her appointment on time. And the medical assistant had measured her pressure the moment she sat down. 148 over 94. High, right? Wrong. I asked her to sit quietly, close her eyes, breathe slowly. 5 minutes later, we measured again. 122 over 78. Perfectly normal. Margaret had been taking medication for 3 years because nobody had ever let her rest first. The second mistake is even more common, and it's about your arm position. Right now, wherever you are, let your arm hang down by your side. Feel that? That's gravity pulling blood down into your hand. Your heart has to work harder to pump against that gravity. Now raise your arm up high above your head. Feel the difference? The blood drains away. Your heart works less. Blood pressure measurement is exactly this sensitive. If your arm is too low, hanging down, your reading goes up. If your arm is too high, resting on a tall table, your reading goes down. The difference can be 10 to 15 points. And most people have no idea. Your arm needs to be at heart level. Not approximately, not close enough. Exactly at heart level. Imagine your circulatory system as a city water system. The pressure at the bottom of a hill is different from the pressure at the top. Same water, same pipes, different pressure. Your arm is the same. When it hangs low, you're measuring at the bottom of the hill. When it's too high, you're measuring at the top. Neither one tells you the truth about what's happening in your actual heart. I had a patient named Robert, 67 years old, former construction worker, strong guy, big arms. He'd been measuring his blood pressure at home every morning for 2 years, always high, always around 145 over 92. His doctor kept increasing his medication, first 1 pill, then 2, then 3. Robert felt awful, weak, foggy, couldn't work in his garden anymore. One day, his daughter visited. She's a nurse. She watched him take his measurement, and she noticed something. Robert was sitting at his kitchen table. The table was low. His arm was hanging down, unsupported, dangling in the air. She grabbed a pillow, put it under his arm, raised it up to heart level. They measured again. 126 over 80. Normal. 2 years of medication, 2 years of side effects, all because of a pillow. If this story made you think, support this video with a like and subscribe so more people can learn how to truly protect their health. Now let's get back to the most important part. The third mistake is about the cuff itself. Most people use whatever cuff came with their monitor. But here's what you need to understand. Cuffs come in different sizes for a reason. A cuff that's too small will squeeze your arm too tight. It overestimates your pressure. A cuff that's too large wraps around loosely. It underestimates your pressure. And the difference isn't small. We're talking about 20 to 30-point errors. Enough to turn a normal person into a patient. Enough to put you on medication you don't need. Think of it like wearing shoes. If your shoes are too small, every step hurts. If they're too big, you trip and stumble. The right size matters. The same is true for blood pressure cuffs. Your upper arm circumference determines which cuff you need. Most standard cuffs fit arms between 9 and 13 inches around. But if your arm is larger, if you're a bigger person, if you have more muscle or more weight, that standard cuff is strangling your arm, and your reading is falsely high. A study in the American Journal of Hypertension measured over 1,200 patients with both correct and incorrect cuff sizes. When the cuff was too small, readings averaged 22 points higher, systolic, and 14 points higher diastolic. 22 points. That's the difference between normal and stage 2 hypertension. That's the difference between no medication and 3 different pills every day. Let me tell you about Patricia, 58, office manager. She'd been checking her pressure at the pharmacy every week. Always high, always concerning. Her doctor started her on medication, but Patricia felt something was wrong. The cuff at the pharmacy was tight, really tight. It left deep red marks on her arm. It hurt. She mentioned this to me during a visit. I measured her arm, 15 inches around. She needed a large adult cuff. The pharmacy was using a standard cuff. We measured her pressure with the correct size, 118 over 76, completely normal. She'd been taking medication for 8 months because of the wrong cuff size. Here's what you need to do. Measure your upper arm circumference. Use a soft tape measure. Wrap it around the middle of your upper arm. Write down the number. Then check your blood pressure cuff. Most cuffs have the size range printed right on them. If your arm measurement is outside that range, you need a different cuff. This one step could save you from years of unnecessary treatment. The fourth mistake is something almost nobody talks about. It's about your bladder. Yes, your bladder. When your bladder is full, when you need to urinate, your blood pressure rises, your body tenses, your muscles contract, your nervous system activates, and your reading goes up by 10 to 15 points. I've seen patients rush to their doctor's appointment, sit down immediately, get their pressure checked, and show elevated numbers simply because they needed to use the bathroom. It sounds almost funny, but it's not. It's serious. It's real. And it happens constantly. Your body is like a complex machine with interconnected systems. When one system is under pressure, literally, it affects everything else. A full bladder puts pressure on your pelvic nerves. Those nerves signal your brain. Your brain responds by tightening blood vessels. Tighter vessels mean higher pressure. It's automatic, it's unavoidable, and it's completely preventable. I remember Thomas, 64, accountant, very precise man. He tracked everything. He measured his blood pressure every morning at exactly 7 a.m., always elevated. 138 over 88. 142 over 90. He couldn't understand it. He was healthy, he exercised, he ate well, but those numbers wouldn't budge. During one of our conversations, I asked him about his morning routine. He woke up, made coffee, drank 2 cups, then measured his pressure, then went to the bathroom. I asked him to switch the order. Go to the bathroom first, then measure. The next week, he came back amazed. 124 over 78. Every single day. The coffee had filled his bladder. The full bladder had raised his pressure. Such a simple change, such a dramatic difference. The fifth mistake is the most insidious because it feels like you're doing everything right. It's about talking during measurement. You're sitting quietly, your arm is positioned correctly, the cuff is the right size, you've rested, you've emptied your bladder, everything is perfect, and then you start chatting, you talk to the nurse, you answer questions, you tell a story, and your blood pressure spikes. Talking activates your sympathetic nervous system. It's the same system that controls your fight or flight response. When you talk, your heart rate increases, your breathing changes, your blood vessels constrict, and your pressure goes up. Research from the Journal of Clinical Hypertension showed that talking during blood pressure measurement increases readings by an average of 17 points systolic and 13 points diastolic. 17 points, just from talking. Imagine you're at 123 over 79, normal. You start talking. Suddenly you're at 140 over 92. Stage 2, hypertension. Nothing changed except your conversation. Think of your cardiovascular system like a still pond. When the water is calm, you can see the bottom clearly. You can measure the depth accurately. But throw in a stone, create ripples, and everything becomes distorted. Talking is that stone. It creates ripples in your cardiovascular system. And those ripples make accurate measurement impossible. I treated a woman named Linda, 56, real estate agent, very social, very talkative. She loved to chat. Every time she came in, her pressure was high. 144 over 94, 148 over 96. We tried medication. It helped a little, but not enough. One day, I decided to try something different. I asked her to sit silently. No talking, no questions, just quiet. I left the room for 5 minutes. When I came back, I measured without saying a word. 126 over 80. Normal. Linda's high blood pressure wasn't medical, it was conversational. We worked on teaching her to stay silent during home measurements. Her numbers normalized completely. No medication needed. Now let me give you a simple self-test. You can do this right now, mentally. Think about the last time you had your blood pressure checked. Did you rest for at least 5 minutes before measurement? Was your arm supported at heart level? Was the cuff the right size for your arm? Had you emptied your bladder? Were you silent during the measurement? If you answered no to even one of these questions, your reading was probably wrong. And if your reading was wrong, any treatment based on that reading might be wrong too. Here's what most people don't realize. Blood pressure isn't a single number. It's not like your height or your eye color. It changes constantly. Every minute, every hour. It goes up when you're stressed. It goes down when you're calm. It rises when you're active. It falls when you're resting. Measuring it once, in imperfect conditions, and making treatment decisions based on that single measurement is like judging the ocean by looking at one wave. You're missing the whole picture. The American Heart Association recommends taking multiple measurements over time, at least 2 readings per visit, at least 2 visits before diagnosis, and ideally, home monitoring over several weeks. Why? Because patterns matter more than individual numbers. If your pressure is 140 over 90 once, that's interesting. If it's 140 over 90 20 times at different times of day, in proper conditions, that's meaningful. That's when we talk about treatment. But here's what actually happens in most medical offices. You arrive, you're rushed, you're anxious. Someone takes one quick measurement, the doctor sees 140 over 90, and suddenly you're walking out with a prescription. No follow-up measurements, no home monitoring, No investigation into whether those 5 mistakes might be affecting your reading. Just pills. And once you start those pills, stopping them becomes complicated. Your body adjusts. Your doctor becomes cautious. And you might stay on medication for years, even decades, based on measurements that were never accurate in the first place. Let me share something that happened just last month. A man named George came to see me, 71 years old, retired police officer. He'd been on blood pressure medication for 15 years, 3 different pills, every single day. He felt tired constantly. His kidneys were starting to show stress. His potassium levels were off. He asked me if there was any way to reduce his medication. I suggested we do a proper assessment. We had him monitor his blood pressure at home for 2 weeks, 3 times a day, following all 5 rules: rest first, arm at heart level, correct cuff size, empty bladder, stay silent. The results shocked both of us. His average pressure was 122/76, completely normal. We slowly, carefully reduced his medication under close supervision. Today, George takes 1 low-dose pill instead of 3. He feels 20 years younger. His kidneys are recovering. His energy is back. 15 years of overtreatment because nobody had ever taught him how to measure correctly. Now, what about the people who actually do need medication? Because let me be clear, high blood pressure is real. It's dangerous. It causes strokes. It causes heart attacks. It damages kidneys. It shortens lives. If your pressure is genuinely, consistently elevated, medication can be life-saving. The key word is consistently. Not once, not twice. Consistently, over time, in proper conditions. Here's how to know if you really need treatment. First, get a good home blood pressure monitor. Make sure it's validated. Check the FDA website for approved devices. Make sure you have the right cuff size. Then, measure your pressure correctly. Every morning and every evening for 2 weeks. Always after 5 minutes of rest. Always with your arms supported at heart level. Always after using the bathroom. Always in silence. Write down every reading. Calculate your average. If your average is below 130/80, you probably don't need medication. If it's between 130 and 140/80 to 90, you're in a gray zone. Lifestyle changes might be enough. If it's consistently above 140/90, then yes, we need to talk about treatment. But even then, medication isn't the only answer. For many people, especially those in that gray zone, simple changes make enormous differences. Losing just 10 pounds can drop your pressure by 5 to 10 points. Reducing salt intake can drop it another 5 points. Regular walking, just 30 minutes a day, can drop it by another 5 to 8 points. That's 20 points total. That's often enough to avoid medication entirely, or to reduce medication significantly. I had a patient named Dorothy, 63. Her pressure averaged 138/88, just barely high. Instead of starting medication immediately, we made a plan. She started walking every morning, 20 minutes at first, then 30. She cut back on processed foods. She stopped adding salt at the table. She lost 12 pounds over 3 months. Her pressure dropped to 124/78. No pills, just changes. Simple, sustainable changes. Here's what I want you to understand. Your blood pressure is not your enemy. It's information. It's your body communicating with you. But you need to listen accurately. You need to measure correctly. You need to understand what the numbers really mean. And you need to know that one high reading, taken in rushed conditions, with the wrong technique, doesn't define your health. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you need to be fixed with medication. It means you need better information. Let me give you the exact protocol I use with my patients. This is what I want you to do starting tomorrow. Buy a validated home blood pressure monitor with the correct cuff size for your arm. Every morning, within 1 hour of waking, sit quietly for 5 minutes. Use the bathroom first. Sit in a chair with back support. Put your feet flat on the floor. Rest your arm on a table at heart level. Don't talk. Don't look at your phone. Just breathe normally. After 5 minutes, Take your measurement. Write it down. Do the same thing every evening before dinner. Do this for 2 weeks, 14 days, morning and evening. That's 28 measurements. Calculate your average. That average is your true blood pressure. That's the number that matters. If your average is below 130/80, celebrate. You're doing well. Keep monitoring once a week to make sure it stays there. If your average is between 130 and 140/80 to 90, focus on lifestyle. Walk more, eat less salt, lose some weight, manage stress. Recheck in 3 months. If your average is above 140/90, talk to your doctor. But bring your log. Show them your measurements. Show them you did it correctly. This gives them real information to make real decisions. Here's what breaks my heart. I see people every week who are exhausted, dizzy, weak, struggling with side effects from blood pressure medication they don't actually need. I see people who are terrified of their numbers, who check their pressure 10 times a day, who live in constant anxiety because one reading was high. I see people who avoid the doctor entirely because they're afraid of being put on more pills. And I see people who actually do have high blood pressure, but don't know it because they're measuring wrong and getting falsely normal readings. This isn't about being anti-medication. I prescribe blood pressure medication every single day. When it's needed, it's miraculous. It saves lives. It prevents strokes. It protects kidneys. But it should be prescribed based on accurate information, not on rushed measurements, not on single readings, not on mistakes that could easily be avoided. Your health is not something that happens to you. It's something you participate in every single day, with every choice, with every measurement, with every decision. You have more control than you think. You have more power than you've been told, but you need the right information. You need the truth. And the truth is that most people measuring blood pressure are doing it wrong. The truth is that those 5 mistakes are creating millions of false diagnoses. The truth is that you might not need those pills, or you might need fewer, or you might need them but for the right reasons, based on accurate numbers. I'm begging you, don't ignore this. Don't brush it off. Don't assume your measurements are fine. Check, verify, measure correctly. Because the difference between a correct and incorrect measurement isn't just numbers on a screen, it's years of your life. It's your energy. It's your vitality. It's your ability to play with your grandchildren, to travel, to live fully. Don't let measurement mistakes steal that from you. Start tomorrow. Get the right equipment. Learn the right technique. Take your time. Do it properly. And if your numbers are different from what you expected, don't panic. Don't celebrate. Just gather information, track patterns, and then make informed decisions with your doctor based on real data, not on rushed, inaccurate, mistake-filled measurements. In my next video, I'm going to reveal the truth about cholesterol numbers after 60, what the guidelines don't tell you, which numbers actually matter, and which ones are being used to sell you medication you might not need. Every person over 50 needs to hear this. It could change everything. Remember, your blood pressure is just information, but only if you measure it right. 5 mistakes, 5 simple fixes. The difference between unnecessary medication and true health. The choice is yours. Make it count.